Stop running down the meh and mundane hallways of life and tap into the magical. My name is Michelle Shutter. I am a life and leadership coach for women and host of the Life Coaching Classroom podcast. I'd like to welcome you to Life Coaching Classroom, where we walk with you in the hallways of life so you can align to the beautiful expansiveness of your true self through reconnection, reinvention, and rejuvenation. I'm so glad you're here. Welcome to class. Welcome back to Life Coaching Classroom podcast. My name is Michelle Shutter, and I am a life and leadership coach for women. And on episode 47, we are going to talk about, is being right serving you? But before we do that, I want to share with you our November life coaching unit study called Prove Yourself Wrong. This is an opportunity for you to experience life coaching at absolutely no charge. Prove Yourself Wrong is a 3-day little mini study where, again, you get to experience life coaching. If that is something you are interested in, I highly recommend that you go ahead and register at lifecoachingclassroom.com/unit. And let's prove yourself wrong this month. Well, in this episode, as I mentioned, we are going to talk about, is being right serving you? Now, we're here in the second week of November. Before long, it'll be the end of the year. But I want to encourage you today to kind of look over your shoulder and look back into 2022 and see where you started and where you are right now. Let's just do a little comparison. Because I want to know, and one thing you should reflect on is, did you commit to yourself in 2022 in a way that was expanding for you, in a way that gave you new levels of growth, in a way that really committed to yourself? Or did you deviate from those goals, those visions that you had, those desires that you have, and you went into that meh and mundane and mediocrity of life? And we want to examine that so that we don't set ourselves up to be self-sabotaging ourselves in 2023. Now, this episode is all about being right. So one thing we have to consider and ask ourselves sometimes the hard questions, and we have to get brutally honest with ourselves, not from a place of judgment, but from a place of revealing what is holding us back, really creating that awareness for ourselves. And so I want to share with you 3 different reasons why we sometimes have that very strong need to be right. The first reason is dominance. We want some dominance. We want some power in some way. And we're going to kind of look at the backside of these after I give you all 3 of them. The second thing is we need to prove ourselves in some way, whether that's to ourselves or to other people in our life. And the third reason for being right, it has a lot to do with just we wanting things to be predictable. The one thing we have to consider is, being right in some ways can be detrimental to different situations, different experiences in our life. And it can show up in different ways throughout these situations, throughout these experiences. And there might even be a stronger need to be right in certain situations or certain experiences. So you really want to pause and reflect on, where are those situations? Where are those life experiences where I do feel like a stronger need that I have to be right? And why is that? So let's look at the flip side of some of these. When we are in a situation of wanting to be right from a place of dominance and power, it's really hiding the fact that we're feeling some insecurity in some way. We're looking for some certainty. We're looking for some validation. And that insecurity doesn't serve us. And what we want to remember is everything is energy. Everything physical, everything non-physical, every emotion, everything is energy. So what would happen if we transformed some of that insecurity into something that served us at a higher level? The second thing was to prove yourself to yourself or to prove yourself to others. And what where we need to go there is we really need to look at our worthiness. We are attaching our worthiness to being right? And if we are we doing that and looking at this from a place of self-judgment, or are we worried that others are going to judge us? Are we worried that we're not good enough? Are we worried that, we're living into that old childhood memory of, be a good girl? And all of that is attached to that wanting to be right, to wanting to prove ourselves in some way. The third thing was the predictability and looking at from a place of control. Like, we want it to be predictable, so we're going to control and do everything we can to control the outcome so that we are right. And when we come from this place, a lot of times it's fueled by anger, it's fueled by conflict. It really is a place where we're not trusting, the other recipients. They are not perhaps honoring our time. All of that kind of comes back to control. And then I want to throw a bonus piece in here, in that when we have this deep desire to always have to be right, we're really looking at this addiction to disappointment. Like, our bodies over time have made disappointment such a familiar feeling in us. And if things are not going right, or let's just say, you have a situation with a coworker and you want it to go this way because you feel like this is right. And yet the other coworker is saying, or your coworker is saying, no, we should do it this way because this way is right. Well, if you release you're willing to be right and that other person was wrong, there is that piece of, okay, I'm disappointed because I'm not in control. But there's also this piece of, I told you so, right? And that kind of veers off of disappointment in a different tangent. But you can see the connection where this is all showing up for you. When we are in this space of always having to be right, it really masks the opportunity for us to release and transform the pieces of us that no longer serve us. These pieces of an uncertainty or insecurity or worthiness or control or the addiction to disappointment, like all of that we've been carrying around in our heavy backpack for so long, for so many weeks and months and years. And all the levels of disappointment just get heavier and heavier and heavier. It doesn't have to be the same situation repeated over and over again. It's the same feeling, the same emotion that we keep experiencing over and over again. And so what isn't serving you in terms of having to be right, what if we could transform that energy into something that is serving you? Something that really lands with you in a whole new way and creates some expansiveness for you as you start to wrap up 2022 and you start to look at 2023. And I bring this up because, as I mentioned at the beginning of this podcast, it's really about what if we could prove ourselves wrong, where we don't have that desire to be right all the time. And I can tell you, it's a work in progress. It isn't something that shows up one day, like today I'm going to, I don't have this feeling of needing to be right and it's gone and erased. No, it is a work in progress. And I can tell you that because that is something that I have worked on for a very long time because of this whole piece of feeling like I'm out of control sometimes when I'm not right. However, what I've realized is that when I can release that, it no longer has to be part of my identity. It doesn't serve me in my highest good. And so again, I want to invite you to our upcoming November unit study called Prove Yourself Wrong. It is going to be a transformational, quick unit study, and if you are not able to attend live, I am going to make the recordings available this time around. So if that is something where you are like, you know what, it is time. It is time that I move into a different space. I invite you to register at lifecoachingclassroom.com/unit. And as I wrap up, I really want to ask you, how do you want to show up? Because is being right aligned with who you are and where you want to go? Or would you be okay proving yourself wrong that you really don't require to be right? Could you release some of this that is holding you back, whether it's insecurity, whether it is the worthiness piece, whether it's control, whether it's disappointment? Could you release that so that you can set yourself up to really step into that identity and step into that place of who you deserve to be? Again, I invite you to register for our upcoming life coaching unit study this month in November called Prove Yourself Wrong. And you can find that registration at lifecoachingclassroom.com/unit. So thanks so much for listening to this episode. Kudos to you for investing in yourself, for listening, and really looking at, what area of my life could I transform? Could I change so that I no longer have this feeling of having to be right? I would absolutely love it if you would share this episode with one of your besties, that perhaps this may land with her as well. And don't forget to register for the unit study, because I will see you in class. Have you joined our monthly unit study? If not, you better head on over and reserve your seat at lifecoachingclassroom.com/unit. The unit study gives you an opportunity to experience life coaching at no charge. Again, register and get all the details at lifecoachingclassroom.com/unit. I do have a favor. Could you take a moment to share this podcast and Life Coaching Classroom with your besties? Perhaps they too are tired of running down the meh and mundane hallways of life. Let's give them a little spark in their day. Finally, I'd be so grateful if you take a minute to review the podcast. The reviews definitely help to spread the podcast to more women. Thank you. I so appreciate you, and I will see you in class.